Rocking and rolling, folks, on a Monday. In my own words, the podcast, hottest show in the streets. Touchdown Alabama Magazine, yours truly, Stephen M. Smith, and we dive into one, Pete Golding. Alabama defensive coordinator Pete Golding entering his third year in the program this coming season, his second year as defensive coordinator, and this is a pivotal year. This is a critical year, a crucial year, an important year for him. And the reason for that being, disappointed does not begin to define how Alabama fans thought about the defense the last 2 years, especially last season, especially when you look at the two games against both LSU and Auburn a season ago, where Alabama gave up a combined 94 points to both teams combined, a combined over 900 yards offensively. And of course, both of those teams beat Alabama. Both Tiger teams got the victory, in which kept the Tide from competing in a Southeastern Conference championship game and getting into the college football playoff. So this is a huge year for Golding. Starting this spring, he's got to make sure that he has made the necessary moves to improve. He has made the necessary moves to make sure he's getting the right calls out. He's making the right substitutions, that this defense does not struggle in the 2020 season. I go back to there were multiple reports from the NFL Scouting Combine, and Terrell Lewis, one of the guys that spoke to the media at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis, and when they got him in front of the cameras and asked him the question about what was the cause or what was the reason behind Alabama's struggles on defense, Terrell Lewis did not sugarcoat anything. He did not hold anything back. He basically said, look, there was a lack of communication from the top down. Play calling was an issue. Guys didn't really know what they were supposed to be at. He basically let the hammer fall in terms of the play calling. Now, the likes of Raekwon Davis and Shaheem Carter were addressed with the same question. They pretty much took the blame upon themselves, those two guys being senior leaders. But Terrell Lewis said, hey, play calling was an issue. It was a lack of communication from the top down. And while Terrell Lewis was a player that had his career limited by a host of injuries, he is still a big name. He is still a prominent name. So his words, they kind of hold some weight. His words, they kind of hold some substance. So this is a big year for Pete Golding. And in the words of the Tupac movie and Tupac himself, all eyes on me, all eyes will be on Pete Golding, especially when you look at the help Pete Golding has gotten now with the strength and conditioning going to improve with Baloo and Dr. Rhea. They're going to cut down on those injuries. You bring in a Freddie Roach to help the defensive line as defensive line coach. You bring in a Charlie Strong to help the defense in terms of being a defensive analyst. So the help is there for Pete Golding. Not only the help is there, but you get guys returning in Dylan Moses, Joshua McMillan, Christian Barmore, DJ Dale, Christopher Allen, Patrick Surtain, among others. You get freshmen coming in with Will Anderson and Drew Sanders and the likes of Jamil Burrows and Tim Smith and Jamarian Latham, Chris Braswell. So much in here. So much talent, so much experience, so much help. So there is really no excuse whatsoever for Pete Golding in year three. Year three is typically the year for head coaches and also at times assistant coaches, especially offensive and defensive coordinators, where people really put you under a microscope and see what can you really do. Now in year one, 2018, Pete Golding was doing some things defensively, but he had the co-DC tag. The primary defensive coordinator tag was Tosh LaPointe. And then last season, Golding was the primary DC on the field, but people kind of give him the benefit of the doubt in terms of the injuries. Now, with experience back, now, with guys healthy, now, with the strength and conditioning gurus in, now that you got some help on the coaching staff, no excuse will be used, or no excuses needed to be used in terms of Pete Golding. And another reason why this is a big critical year for him, I mentioned the name Charlie Strong, and he was brought in, yes, to be a defensive analyst. He was brought in to be the Dr. Dre from behind the scenes, putting pieces in action, absolutely. But I seriously do not believe that Nick Saban and Charlie Strong had this conversation about him being solely just an analyst. I feel like Charlie Strong was brought in under the impression, under the idea that at some point he would be able to have his hands more so involved in this defense, especially if there is the slightest hiccup. I'm not saying it will happen, but if the slightest hiccup occurs where Pete Golding comes in, where you have a struggle defensively in the spring, guys are still having problems, communication still not there, things are still not where they need to be. If there's still the slightest hiccup with Pete Golding, I can see Nick Saban going to Charlie Strong saying, Charlie, son, Charlie, we gonna put you on this handset, Charlie. My man, we're finna hand these keys over to you. We gonna slap this analyst tag off, and we gonna slide on the tag of D coordinator, Charlie. You finna call this defense, son. So I feel like, though he was brought in to be an analyst, Charlie Strong, in his mind, has to be thinking, I took this job with the slightest chance at some point for me getting the opportunity to put my hands on this defense and have my say in calling it. So this is a critical year for one Pete Golding. But I go to this also, and the players have respect for Coach Pete. They love Pete Golding. They really like him, have respect for him. And for some reason, I remember a certain team. I'm not going to like the fact that they have to call their name, that I have to call its name because it has that color that just does not sit well with my stomach. For Tennessee Volunteers, golly, Stephen, why'd you have to say it? For Tennessee Volunteers, I go back to Tennessee football in 1998 when Peyton Manning was gone. He left for the National Football League, and you had T. Martin as the quarterback under Philip Fulmer. And though you had leaders on that team like Peerless Price at wide receiver, everybody was basically talking about Peyton's gone, Peyton was the guy, Peyton was that dude, Peyton was that leader. What are we going to do without Peyton Manning? And that team really rallied behind T. Martin. That team they were not going to allow T. Martin to fail. They basically told him, look, T, you know this team, you know us, you know our system. You don't have to be Peyton, man. Just be you, man. Just be T. Martin. Just throw that football like we know you can throw it. Just let that cannon rip, son. Just let that AK fall, son. Just do you. Do what you do, man. We behind you 100%. We are rocking with you. Like we riding in the cut with you full on. So when T. Martin recognized that entire team had his back, he went out there, performed well, and you look what happened. Tennessee was able to win a national championship in the 1998 season, not with Peyton Manning, but with T. Martin. So I kind of equate that to this. When you look at Dylan Moses is not going to allow Pete Golding to fail. Dylan Moses is somebody of whom I spoke with last year at Southeastern Conference Media Days last July, and Dylan Moses talked about how much of a perfectionist, how much of an attention to detail guy that Pete Golding is. He has respect for Coach Golding. So Dylan Moses is not one to let Pete Golding fail. Joshua McMillan the same way. Christian Barmore the same way. All the other players that I previously mentioned the exact same way. The thing is, will Pete not let himself fail? That's the big thing. Will Pete not let himself fail? Will Pete take what happened in 2019 and use that as motivation for, okay, this is what helped, this is what did not work. This is what helped, this is what I need to kind of steer away from. Will Pete take what happened this past year, sit down with Nick Saban, pull out his pen and paper, pull out his recorder, learn more, glean more, talk more, gain more wisdom? Will Pete take out the pen and paper, go to Charlie Strong, learn more, glean more, understand more, take notes? Will Pete even go to David Ballou and Matt Rea, sit down with them, learn more, glean more, see how can they bounce ideas off each other as well? Because, Pete's got to get done this year. I'm not saying that Terrell Lewis's statement is just the overarching theme of everything, but at the same time, this is Terrell Lewis. He was a prominent name. He was a big-time player when he was healthy, of course. So his words, his statement kind of does carry some weight, kind of does carry some pulse, kind of does carry a heartbeat. So this is a big year coming up for Pete Golding, starting this spring. He's got to make it do what it do and get those improvements done. We take another break here on In My Own Words, the podcast, but just getting your chest warm, folks. When we come back, we dive into more of your phone calls, thoughts, questions, and concerns, baby, right after this.
T-Town Menswear in the University Mall in Tuscaloosa. Touchdown Alabama Magazine is Alabama football's premier publication. A subscription to Touchdown Alabama Magazine is the perfect gift for any Alabama fan. For exclusive news and information, recruiting updates, a free annual print magazine, and more, go to touchdownalabama.com and click join. Only $5.95 per month or pay $49.95 for a full year subscription. That's a saving of almost $22. Make sure to subscribe before it's too late and get our new freshly printed end of the year magazine issue. Go to touchdownalabama.com today and roll Tide.
Thank you for watching Touchdown Alabama Magazine's YouTube channel. To continue to get the best in Alabama football content, subscribe here and turn on your notifications to stay connected with the hottest shows covering your Crimson Tide.